Hello, and welcome to another edition of Bible Time. This is the Believers Fellowship Daily Bible Reading. We're reading through the Old Testament over a 2-year period. Today, we're reading 2 Chronicles, chapters 31 and 32. I'm Pastor Bruce, and I'm having a great time just going through the Old Testament together with you and thinking about what it's saying and the importance of it for us even today. Even in 2 Chronicles. And so we're having a good time doing this. And we're picking it up. We're looking at King Hezekiah. And in the previous 2 chapters that we looked at yesterday, we saw a revival happen under King Hezekiah, which nobody would have seen coming based on his father, King Ahaz, who was one of the worst, if not the worst king Judah ever had. But this revival comes under Hezekiah, which included the restoration of the temple and the observance of Passover, which is something that you're going to want to keep in the back of your mind. That's going to be a pattern, a significant pattern that we're going to see play out in the future. But as a result of that, after the great rejoicing that all the people had at the Passover, you see the real results of this revival in the lives of the people. It wasn't just they got together and had the Passover and had a great time, and then everybody went back to doing whatever they were doing. No, they went home and they destroyed idols. That's when you know real revival's going on, when people start destroying the idols in their lives. And they gave abundantly. There's another sure sign of it. They gave abundantly to the worship of the Lord, the service of the temple. And so much so, they gave so abundantly that Hezekiah provides some practical oversight so that the provision would be made for the priests. And so great things are happening there, and kind of the summary of chapter 31 is in the last 2 verses, verses 20 and 21, where it says, "Thus Hezekiah did throughout all Judah, and he did what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God. And every work that he undertook in the service of the house of God, and in accordance with the law and the commandments, seeking his God, he did with all his heart and prospered." See, there's a big message there that the writer of Chronicles is wanting to communicate. This is a great encouragement to the people that the writer of Chronicles is writing to, probably Ezra, writing to the people who have come back from exile, and they're working to restore the temple and the worship of the Lord there in Jerusalem. And they see this being done. They see it, all the people participating. They see Hezekiah seeking the Lord God with all of his heart, and the Lord blessing that. That's a great encouragement to them. And then chapter 32 provides another encouragement, because now we see Hezekiah preparing for war, because Sennacherib, king of Assyria being the big bullies on the block at that particular time, the power, they come threatening Jerusalem. And so you see him preparing for war. And just a couple of things to take note of here. In verse 5, it talks about how he built a wall. He built a protective wall because of the anticipation of this invasion. You can go to Jerusalem today and see at least a part of that wall that's been preserved. I believe it was uncovered sometime in the 1970s. Hezekiah's wall. That's a place you'll want to see when you go to Jerusalem. And here's the thing. He brings all of his guys together, and they're getting ready for this attack from Assyria. They're anticipating the attack. And listen to this. This is what you want to hear your leader say. Because they know that they're seriously outnumbered. They know that Assyria is incredibly powerful, and they've got to be ready. And listen to what he says in verses 7 and 8 there of chapter 32. He says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or dismayed before the king of Assyria and all the horde that is with him, for there are more with us than with them. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles." And the people took confidence from the words of Hezekiah, the king of Judah. Yeah, they got more in the flesh, but we got God on our side. And what an encouragement that must have been to these men to know that, hey, we have the God who created all things, the God who controls all things, the God who knows all things, the God who has all power, the God who is faithful to his covenants. He's made promises to us. We can trust in him. And the story bears that out, because Sennacherib comes and he starts kind of a propaganda campaign. He starts attacking Hezekiah's trust in God and telling the people, all the people that could hear the message that he's sending, that, hey, the gods of all these other people didn't do them any good. And what's the deal with Hezekiah telling you just to worship this one God? That's not going to do you any good. We're going to take you down just like we took everybody else down. And what it's really coming down to, what the text is bringing us to, is who's mightier, Sennacherib or the Lord? And that's a question that you and I might ask ourselves from time to time as we face opposition or as we face challenges in our life. Is this challenge that you're facing, is this person that's an issue for you, who's mightier, them or God? And so anyways, that's what it's coming down to. And we're told in verse 20 that Hezekiah and Isaiah pray. Wouldn't you like to have been sitting in on that prayer meeting? I mean, how good is it that your prayer partner, your one-on-one prayer partner from your fellowship group is Isaiah the prophet? And so Hezekiah and Isaiah, they meet and they pray and they call out to the Lord, they cry to the Lord, and it says in verse 21 that the Lord sent an angel who cut off all the mighty warriors and commanders and officers in the camp of the king of Assyria. So they prayed, and God said, okay, Sennacherib, you want to see who's mightier? Let me show you. And he sends one angel and takes them out. And it says in verse 22 that the Lord saved Hezekiah and the people of Jerusalem. This is what the Lord did. See, this is what it means to trust in God, to trust in his promises, to pray according to his promises, and to see him work. That's what they saw. And you see here, and this is the encouragement to the people that Ezra is writing to, that seeking the Lord it can also bring military victory. And the writer of Chronicles is leaving out a lot of history because he's focusing in on the things that he's wanting to highlight that will encourage his readers. Now, unfortunately, Hezekiah, like some other kings we saw that were good kings, but they got proud because they prospered so much. They couldn't handle the prosperity. They became proud. He gave no return for his benefit is what's said there, and God spared his life. Hezekiah was going to die. He prayed, God lengthened his life, but it says that Hezekiah gave no return for this benefit, and he became proud. But the good news is that he repented. That's one difference that you see in Hezekiah. He repented. And again, you're reminded in verse 29, it says, he provided for cities for himself and flocks and herds in abundance, for God had given him very great possessions. God is behind this whole thing. And then in verse 30, it talks about some of the projects that Hezekiah completed prior to the record of his death there. And one of the things you'll see there in verse 30 is that he made a tunnel. It's known as Hezekiah's tunnel. It goes from the Gihon spring down to the pool of Siloam, provides a source of water for the city. And that's another thing. You go to Jerusalem today, not only do you want to see Hezekiah's wall, you want to walk through Hezekiah's tunnel and be amazed that 2,700 years ago they could build this tunnel. So these are great lessons, great encouragements, not only to the people who are originally receiving this book, but it's a great encouragement to you and me as well, that God is faithful to his promises. We can trust in him for everything. And we'll look at more tomorrow. We're going to see another sudden change in the circumstances tomorrow. You come back tomorrow. We'll see you for more Bible time.